Well, this past week has been a quiet week. Not really much of anything happened. On Monday, I'm proud to say, I announced my candidacy for president. The energy, the enthusiasm has been electric. I think people are fed up. They're fed up with the last 6 years. They're fed up with economic stagnation. They're fed up with Obamacare. They're fed up with a continual assault on our constitutional rights. And they're ready to turn the page. They're ready to look on. You know, if you listen to my announcement speech, I think in 30 minutes, I believe I said the word Obama once. There's a reason for that. It's time to turn the page and move on. At this point, millions of people across the country recognize what we're doing isn't working.
You're here.
This isn't a matter of right or left. This isn't a matter of Democrat or Republican. This is common sense.
Right.
It ain't working. And I think millions of Americans are ready to get back to the principles that made America great. Instead of the economic stagnation we've seen for 6 years, imagine an America where small businesses are booming and creating jobs and opportunity is plentiful for everyone. Imagine young people, instead of coming out of school wondering, how on earth am I going to pay back these school loans? Imagine young people coming out of school with 4, 5, 6 jobs. You know, that has been the history of this country. If we get back to jobs and growth and opportunity, that comes from small businesses. Small businesses create 2/3 of all new jobs in our country. And you know, there's a basic cause and effect. When you have a federal government that hammers the living daylights out of small businesses, that puts in place trillions of crushing new taxes, that sends regulators like locusts to devour small businesses, inevitably what happens is growth goes away. Opportunity goes away. And people get trapped. But there's a flip side to that cause and effect. Every time in history we have pursued tax reform and regulatory reform, getting the tax collector out of here, pulling the regulators back, we have seen incredible economic growth. Whether in the 1920s, in the 1960s, or the 1980s. You know, one great thing for folks in New Hampshire to do is remind all of our friends in Massachusetts, go listen to John F. Kennedy in the 1960s talking about tax cuts. Listen to John F. Kennedy talking about when we reduce taxes, what happens is it unchains small businesses and creates jobs and opportunity. John F. Kennedy were given that speech today. The media would label him a right-wing nutjob. Tax reform and regulatory reform. When it comes to tax reform, we need to move to a simple, flat tax. Where every American can fill out his or her taxes on a postcard. And we can abolish the IRS. gosh, that's unrealistic. You can't do anything like that. You just have to fiddle around the edges. You can't have real, meaningful reform. I'll tell you, tax reform and the flat tax is an issue that I think has changed considerably. For a lot of years, Steve Forbes worked very hard to begin building the intellectual foundation, the public support for a flat tax. I think in the last 6 years, the issue's changed. The last 6 years, we've seen the weaponization of the IRS. The IRS going after those perceived to be President Obama's political enemies. Now, if you follow ordinary Washington rules, we can't abolish the IRS. So we've got to change the rules. How do we get it done? We build a grassroots movement that rises up and demands enough is enough. We want fundamental reform. We want a flat tax, and we want to get Washington out of our lives. But New Hampshire understands very well, live free or die.
Yes, we do.
It was not an accident that on Monday when I announced my candidacy, it was the 240th anniversary of a young lawyer named Patrick Henry who stood up and said, "Give me liberty or give me death."
Yeah.